And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on this Saturday, January 6th, 2024. And if you'd like additional weather information on top of what I provide in this YouTube video, you can go to weather.gov. It'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S. with Hawaii and Alaska to the lower left, and then tabs here for the territories. And checking the weather map on the continental U.S. here this Saturday afternoon, we have a lot of weather going on for a change. It was pretty quiet prior to New Year's, but we have winter storm warnings for much of the Northeast down into the mid-Atlantic, including Pennsylvania and the panhandle there of West Virginia. As much as a foot of snow could fall in some areas there. We have another winter storm watch for a system that's going to come out of the Rockies and then affect areas of the Midwest, and then tailing back here through the Intermountain West and in through California, Oregon. Various winter weather watches and winter storm warnings, including areas of the Sierra Nevada and Cascades. But here in Alaska, we continue to have an active early New Year weather pattern. We still have blizzard conditions in areas of the Arctic coast and west coast. And then high winds have impacted the Aleutians up into the lower Alaska Peninsula, but conditions there should gradually be improving later this evening and especially by Sunday. And then we are going to see some areas of snow and blowing snow spreading further in through areas of the western central interior, around the eastern Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, and also into the Panhandle as we especially get into the day on Sunday. So a quick check of some of the FAA webcams way up in the north. Utqiagvik, blowing snow, temperature at 0. They've seen visibilities down around a half mile or lower. And blowing and drifting snow where blizzard warnings remain in effect. Hooper Bay, blizzard conditions with temperatures there in the low 20s. Temperatures are going to be creeping upward. Those conditions should gradually be improving later tonight, especially as we get into Sunday. Now, as we go up the Yukon River into the western interior, there's also going to be snow and some blowing snow pushing inland now and especially tonight and Sunday. So we have winter storm warnings for the Anvik area. Extending on up to Ruby, and snow and blowing snow reported there this early Saturday afternoon with a temperature at 11 degrees. And then Dutch Harbor, windy 41. Dutch Harbor reached a high earlier today at 47 degrees and with a peak wind gust of 66 miles an hour. High wind warnings there will continue at least into mid-evening before those are allowed to expire. And looking at the state map for where the hazardous weather is anticipated, let's start in the far north. This area of the Arctic coast will continue to see strong winds, easterly, northeasterly winds that'll cause considerable blowing and drifting snow and areas of blizzard conditions through the rest of this weekend and even lingering into early next week, especially that area east of Dead Horse through Kaktovik, the Barter Islands. As we drop southwestward, we have a deep low that is crossed up through the central Aleutians into the lower Bering. So we have high wind warnings here in the Aleutians up into the lower Alaska Peninsula, but these are going to allow to expire as we go through late afternoon and the mid-evening. Here, the blizzard warning for Kuskokwim Bay will be dropped and continue, though, for areas of the lower Yukon coast and out toward Nome and St. Lawrence Island as snow is spreading northward now, and we have the strong winds already creating blowing and drifting snow. And then we expect some of that snow and wind to push inland into the areas west of the Alaska Range, McGrath down to Sleetmute. Expect winter weather advisory, especially later tonight and during the day Sunday. Also, that area of Anvik on up toward Ruby. We'll see winter storm warnings in effect for 6 to locally as much as 12 inches of snow and blowing and drifting. We have winter weather advisories for eastern Kenai later tonight and into Sunday, including western Prince William Sound. And that's all because of a front and secondary low that's going to take shape in this area and then press northeastward later tonight and Sunday. And as a result, areas of the northeastern Gulf Coast, including Yakutat, and then extending into around the icy corridor here in Juneau, pick up 3-5 inches of snow, maybe a little more in some of the higher elevations. Also, the area further inland in the southeast, Ketchikan toward Hyder, could also pick up 3-5 inches of snow with some blowing snow as well. So again, an active pattern. Then we have up through these areas, winter weather advisory, Gobbler's Knob there, lower Dalton Highway for some light snow and blowing snow. And I just wanted to catch up on a few things of what's been going on in the sky since the new year. We had first of all, the new moon is going to occur this coming Thursday on January 11th. So skies will be good and dark. I noticed waning crescent moon this morning in the eastern sky. The quadrantid meteor shower, it's like the second, third best meteor shower of the year. That actually peaked the night of January 3rd into the morning of the 4th, so that's already passed now. But if you did notice an uptick in meteor activity, if you had clear skies, that's why. And then the Earth at perihelion occurred on January 2nd. That's when we're actually closest to the sun in the Earth's orbit, 91.4 million miles from the sun on January 2nd. We are farthest from the sun around the 4th of July, when it ends up being like 94.5 million miles. So interesting little fact there about astronomy and some orbital mechanics. And this was last week. We had those strong easterly winds coming along the Arctic coast, causing the ice there to crack up. Well, this pattern has been continuing. And if we look at what we have in terms of this deep low that has come up out of the North Pacific, crossing the Aleutians, now up into the lower Bering, this was a hurricane force low. And look at this wrapped up system with a occluded front that wraps around it. And then the front is pushing now gradually pushing northeastward up into the southwest coast, and will eventually cut across the Gulf toward the Panhandle. We'll get a little secondary development, a weaker low that often forms in the western Gulf. That's going to happen later tonight and into Sunday. So this is a situation Saturday afternoon, 9:48 low. That will continue to gradually fill. This front will begin to weaken, and then here's the triple point, and this is where we expect secondary development early Sunday morning, like 3 a.m. The occluded front around the low just continues to kind of wash out, but then here's the triple point with the secondary low, and that's the low that's going to create the snows, accumulating snows there along areas of the eastern Kenai, Prince William Sound, and then extending along the northeastern Gulf into parts of the Panhandle by Sunday. Even the Anchorage area could pick up some additional light snow, maybe 2 to 4 inches coming up here Sunday into Sunday evening. So definitely still not done with wintry weather, even though Anchorage has had a ton of snow so far by their climatological standards for this winter. Over 80 inches of snow has already fallen. So by Sunday afternoon, along this occluded front, we find a couple of other weaker low centers, and as this system pushes northeastward, we expect snow. Parts of the Panhandle, northeastern Gulf Coast, intercoastal mountains. That moisture will creep further northward later Sunday into Sunday night, up along and south of the Alaska Range, and then eventually into areas of the interior. We have the low filling to 957, gradually weakening, and the occluded front wrapped around it continues to gradually fall apart. So by Monday afternoon, that low, remnants of it have lifted up toward the Gulf of Anadyr along the Russian coast. We find a scattering of patchy, mainly light to maybe some pockets of moderate snow pushed in through the interior, and then the couple of lows that were out here along that front kind of wash out. So that'll be the extent of this system here going into the early portion of next week. There'll be another low to keep an eye on that's way out into the North Pacific, southwest of the Aleutians. So looking at temperatures, below freezing across much of the Panhandle tonight. 11 below there, Copper River Basin, temperatures 20s, even 30s as you get down along the coast, above freezing, Homer, Kodiak City on over toward King Salmon, because there is a push of milder air. By Sunday afternoon, we expect temperatures to be around or just above 40 at Homer, as well as I would say probably at least 40 here at Kodiak, and upper 30s as you extend down along the Alaska Peninsula. The outer portion of the Panhandle will see temperatures bump up above freezing, but the inner channels in areas like Hyder, Wrangell, on up toward Juneau, and certainly as you get up toward Haines, Skagway, cold enough to stay all snow. Temperatures trying to push up near freezing in the Anchorage area on Sunday, and then Monday morning lows modifying overall across much of the region. Some of the milder readings we've seen since the late last year, 2 below there at Glen Ellen, and then as we go into Monday afternoon, temperatures in many of the southern outer coastal areas here of the Panhandle above freezing, mid, maybe upper 30s, near or just below freezing. Juneau up toward the north end of the Panhandle, and near freezing around Anchorage on over toward Cordova and Valdez, with temperatures, relatively speaking, milder. Now, the coldest temperatures Sunday morning, Yukon Flats, any clear skies could be down locally near 30 below. This morning, the Saturday morning, Tok Junction was 27 below, and certainly some of the normally cold spots were down near 30 below. That'll be the case again. Temperatures will try to creep upwards here along the southwest coast, Norton Sound, because we are getting that occluded front lifting northward, and that will help to modify temperatures along this area. Arctic coast below zero there and along areas of the North Slope. Daytime highs single digits, generally above zero along the Arctic coast, and still a few pockets there within, say, the Yukon Flats, upper Porcupine River, or down toward Northway, remaining below zero. But notice 30 degrees pushing up there at along Norton Sound at Nome, and 32 Savunga. And then morning lows Monday morning could still be below zero in the east and northeastern interior down toward Eagle and Northway. But we expect milder temperatures along the west coast, 20 plus once you get south of the Bering Strait. And for Monday afternoon, daytime highs coldest along the Alcan border, generally around or a bit below zero. But again, temperatures will be mildest in the 20s, maybe even 30-degree reading here down along the lower Yukon Delta on over toward St. Lawrence Island. Sunday morning lows creeping upward. We've had a push of milder air with the occluded front along Kuskokwim, Bristol Bay. Certainly temperatures, though switching winds, will cool readings back down a bit below freezing along the central western Aleutians. Sunday afternoon highs, though, generally should be above freezing. Not quite as mild as today. As this Saturday afternoon, we've had lower 40s. Expect temperatures to be a few degrees cooler Sunday afternoon. Come Monday morning, low temperatures have modified along the southwestern coast into the mid-upper 20s, and say upper 20s near 30 along the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians. So again, often the case when you have a big storm like that, it does pull in relatively milder air than what was in place earlier. Looking at the extended temperature outlook now as we head to mid-month, January 12th through the 16th, this pattern is not really going to change much. We may see some breaks that occur, especially south central into the interior. But overall, as we go and approach mid-month, above normal temperatures over much of the mainland, centered on the Yukon-Kuskokwim valleys. So that's implying moisture is going to be coming in off the Bering Sea and out of the North Pacific. So this will keep the potential for above normal snowfall and the potential still for some mixed precipitation events, especially along coastal areas as we head through mid-month. Notice here, below normal temperatures in the Panhandle, and precipitation should average below normal in the Panhandle, but with this southerly, southwesterly flow coming in off the Bering and out of the North Pacific, it favors the western portion of the mainland to see precipitation average above normal. And as I mentioned, areas here along the southwest coast could at times see some mixed precipitation. So that's just kind of a heads up here as we get here into the middle of January.